You don't become who you wish to be. You become what you keep returning to when no one is watching, the thoughts you entertain in silence, the words you repeat when you're tired, when you're uncertain, when you're alone. That's what builds you. That's what shapes your tomorrow. We are not made in the spotlight. We are made in the quiet. The future isn't something that happens to us. It's something that grows inside us, word by word, thought by thought, belief by belief. So I ask you, what have you been feeding your mind lately? Because your mind, it's always eating. Every scroll, every headline, every fear, every hope, it all becomes soil, and something always grows. Even neglect grows something. Weeds don't need permission. They grow when we forget to plant anything better. Most people think success is about effort, but before effort comes attention, and before attention comes belief. You will not act on what you do not believe. So again, I ask, what are you letting yourself believe? What are you rehearsing inside your head when things go wrong? What story plays in the background of your quiet moments? What voices have you let stay? Not because they are wise, but because they are familiar. It's easy to think that one negative thought won't matter, but a single drop repeated carves through stone. One thought repeated becomes identity. Identity becomes direction, and direction becomes destiny. The world is not waiting to give you your future. It's waiting for you to grow into it. And the seeds are already in your hands. What you feed your mind, you feed your future. If you feed it doubt, your future will shrink to the size of your fear. If you feed it blame, your future will revolve around what others owe you. If you feed it distraction, your future will dissolve into days you can't remember. But if you feed it clarity, if you feed it hope, if you feed it discipline, truth and quiet belief, then you will outgrow the version of yourself that once settled for less. And one day, quietly, without applause or fanfare, you'll wake up in a life that fits the shape of your soul. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be deliberate. Your future is listening. Feed it well. There's a quiet garden inside each of us. Most never notice it, not really, but it's there, blooming or wilting, shaped by what we allow to grow, the thoughts you revisit each day. They're the seeds. Your attention, your emotions, your repetition, that's the water. And over time, whatever you water becomes your landscape. Have you ever walked into a room and just felt peace? Not because of what was said, but because of who was there. Some people carry a garden within them, not because life handed it to them, but because they learned to tend it in silence. They chose what to water. What are you watering? Most people don't realize they're even holding the hose. They water worry by rehearsing worst-case scenario. They water comparison by scrolling through lives that don't belong to them. They water resentment by repeating old hurts like they still need protection. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, why the days feel heavy, why it seems like life is working against them. But it isn't life. It's the inner garden they forgot to care for. And now, it's overgrown with what they never meant to grow. You don't need to fix everything overnight, but you do need to notice, because whatever you notice, you're already watering. Have you been watering fear, or faith, doubt, or discipline, self-pity, or self-respect? It's not about judgment, it's about awareness. Even a single weed, if watered long enough, can choke out a tree. That's the strange beauty of the mind. It doesn't care if the thought is helpful or harmful. It just grows what it's given. And once something grows long enough, it becomes normal. It becomes home. You stop noticing the thorns because you've learned to step around them. But imagine waking up one day in a mind that feels safe, clear, kind. Imagine walking through a life that feels familiar, not because you've settled, but because it looks like the things you chose to believe. That's what happens when you start watering with intention. Water joy, even if it's just a drop a day. Water stillness, especially when the world tells you to move faster. Water truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. Water hope, especially when it feels far away. And then give it time. Gardens don't bloom on demand, but they do bloom when loved. You don't need more hours in the day, you need better seeds and softer hands, so the next time a thought visits, pause, ask, is this the kind of seed I want to walk through later? Because eventually you will, in your mood, in your choices, in your relationships, in the way your life begins to look and feel and unfold. We keep thinking the future is something out there, but most of it is growing inside us already. You're not just living your life, you're cultivating it. With every moment of attention, with every drop of belief, you are the gardener, you are the ground, you are the water, you are the sun. What you water in your mind, you will one day walk through in your life. Choose what blooms. If a single thought were harmless, we would all be free. But thoughts, like footsteps in fresh snow, create paths, and the more often we walk them, the deeper they go, until one day we don't choose the path chooses us. That's the quiet power of repetition. It doesn't shout, it whispers, again and again, until it becomes the voice we believe. What have you been repeating to yourself? Not the affirmations written on a wall, but the private phrases no one hears. The ones you say when you make a mistake, when you look in the mirror, when something goes wrong. Do they sound like I always mess this up? I'm not ready. No one sees me. Because repetition isn't just memory, it's construction. Every repeated phrase lays down brick and mortar. Your life becomes the house built from what your mind repeats. And once a house is built, we live inside it, even if we don't remember who started the construction. Have you ever noticed how a song you didn't even like gets stuck in your head after hearing it a few times? That's how the mind works. It doesn't ask whether something is true, only whether it's familiar. And once something becomes familiar, we mistake it for truth. That's why the real danger isn't in the single negative thought, it's in the ones we keep rehearsing, like old stories passed down through generations, stories we don't question anymore, because we've heard them too many times to doubt them. Repetition turns ideas into identity. Say I can't enough times, and it becomes who you are. Say I'm not enough times, and you stop trying. Say people don't change, and your future shrinks to your past. But it works in the other direction too. What if you whispered instead, I'm learning. I don't have to get it right the first time. My worth isn't up for debate. Not once, not in bold capital letters for one day, but every day, every moment, every quiet opportunity to rewrite what you believe. Because repetition doesn't care if something is positive or negative. It only knows how to deepen grooves that eventually carry the current of your life. We are flooded, not by big beliefs, but by the small sentences we repeat without thinking. So ask yourself, what words are shaping my days? What ideas have I unknowingly memorized? What realities am I building without meaning to? There's no need to fear your thoughts, but you must learn to befriend them wisely. Stoop to yourself as someone worth listening to. Repeat the things you want to become real, not to trick your brain, but to lead, because your mind is always listening, and it doesn't just echo what you say, it begins to build with it. Guard what you repeat, not because you're fragile, but because you're powerful. Every phrase becomes a foundation, every repetition becomes a rhythm, and one day you'll find yourself dancing to a tune you've been humming for years. Make it one worth dancing to. Long before you live in a house, you live in a blueprint, invisible lines, quiet decisions, choices made when no one else is watching. The same is true for the life you build. Your thoughts, especially the ones you whisper to yourself, they draw the outlines. Your inner dialogue is not background noise, it's the architecture of your future. Every time you speak to yourself, you are either laying bricks or pulling them out. You are either reinforcing a strong structure or letting doubt eat away at the foundation. So let me ask you, what kind of home have you been building inside your mind? Does it feel safe in there, or do your thoughts rattle like windows in a storm? Most of us don't realize the power of our inner voice, because we've heard it for so long, It sounds normal, familiar, true, but not everything familiar is truth, and not every voice deserves a microphone. If someone else spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would you call it love? Would you trust their advice? Or would you walk away? We spend so much time learning how to speak to others, but almost no time learning how to speak to ourselves. Yet the conversation we have with ourselves never ends. It's there when we wake up, when we fall short, when we dream, when we doubt, when no one else can hear. It's always speaking, and the real question is not, is it speaking? The question is it helping? We become the houses we build, and the blueprint, the structure behind every wall, is shaped by what we tell ourselves when we're alone. If your inner dialogue is filled with fear, you'll build a life full of walls and warning signs. If it's filled with shame, you'll build tiny rooms and lock yourself in them. If it's filled with permission, grace, and clarity, you'll build something open, strong, something worth living in. But here's the quiet miracle. You can redraw the blueprint. No matter how long it's been that way, no matter who first taught you to speak to yourself with criticism instead of care, no matter how deep the grooves are, you can learn a new voice, one that builds, one that heals, one that makes room for the life you were meant to live. Start small, catch yourself in the middle of a harsh sentence, and soften it. Turn "I always mess this up" into "I'm still learning." Turn "I'm so stupid" into "that was a mistake, not a verdict." Turn "I can't do this" into "I haven't done it yet." The words don't need to be perfect. They just need to point in a better direction. Little by little, you lay a new foundation, one sentence at a time, one gentle truth in place of an old lie. And over time you'll find that you are standing inside a mind that feels like shelter, not because the world got easier, but because you stopped making your own mind harder than it had to be. You are the architect, you are the builder, and you are the one who lives inside what you create. So build wisely, speak wisely, choose words that strengthen your structure, and never forget, before anything shows up in your life, it echoes first in your mind. Your inner dialogue is the blueprint, and the blueprint becomes the life. Not everything that grows is good, and not everything that appears is planted on purpose. If you've ever let a garden sit unattended for a few weeks, you already know the truth. You don't have to plant weeds for them to take over. You just have to leave the soil alone. Neglect is an invitation, and something always answers. Our minds, like soil, are always open. Open to thoughts, open to influence, open to stories, fears, beliefs. The ones we choose and the ones we don't even realize we're letting in. And if we don't give our attention to what matters, something else will take root in its place. Have you noticed how quickly doubt creeps in when you stop feeding your dreams? How criticism grows louder when you stop nourishing your self-respect? How fear seems to multiply in the space where clarity once lived? Neglect is subtle. It often feels like nothing, like scrolling instead of sitting with yourself, like putting off a hard conversation, like saying, "I'll deal with that later." But later rarely comes, and in the meantime the weeds grow. You may not see them right away, but they grow under the surface, in the stories you start telling yourself, in the energy you carry through your days, in the quiet ways you begin to shrink, settle, or self-sabotage. It's easy to think of growth as loud and effortful, something that takes fire, ambition, hustle. But real growth is gentle. It begins in the direction of your attention. Whatever you notice begins to take shape. Whatever you give time to begins to deepen. So what are you giving your attention to? Is it the complaint or the solution? Is it the flaw or the possibility? Is it the failure or the lesson inside it? Attention is nourishment. It's sunlight, it's water, it's care, and whatever receives your care will respond, maybe met instantly, maybe not visibly, but always, eventually. If you feed your focus with negativity, you'll find more reasons to feel defeated. If you feed your awareness with gratitude, you'll uncover joy in places you used to overlook. If you feed your learning, you'll stretch into spaces you didn't think you could reach. Nothing thrives without attention. Not your mind, not your relationships, not your character, not your future. The weeds will always be waiting, but so will the flowers. You just have to choose. That choice doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to uproot your whole life overnight, but you do need to notice. You do need to show up, and you do need to stop waiting for motivation to do what attention quietly does every day: tend, shape, nurture, restore. Start where you are, no matter how overgrown it feels, no matter how long you've neglected that dream, that goal, that part of yourself. Even the wildest garden can be reclaimed, one corner at a time. Begin with 10 minutes of stillness, a moment of kindness toward yourself, a small act of discipline that reminds your soul you haven't given up. Because the truth is this: you don't need to be extraordinary to grow. You just need to be present. Present enough to care, present enough to choose, present enough to feed what matters before the weeds convince you it never did. Neglect feeds weeds. Attention feeds growth. And every day your life bends quietly in the direction of one or the other. Choose growth. It's not always the easiest path, but it's the only one that leads home. So many people are running toward a future they haven't prepared to inhabit. They chase a vision with hungry eyes and restless hearts, not realizing that the future isn't something you catch, it's something you grow into. You don't get the life you want by wanting it harder. You get it by becoming the kind of person who can carry it without breaking. The question isn't just what do you want. The deeper question is, who are you becoming while you wait? We're told to dream big, to visualize, to go after our goals with everything we've got. But very few ask the quiet question behind all of it. Am I becoming the kind of person my future needs me to be? Because if you're dreaming of peace but feeding chaos in your habits, if you're chasing love but holding on to self-hatred, if you're craving success but resisting responsibility, then even if the future knocks on your door, you won't recognize it. You won't be ready for it, and it will pass you by. You don't rise to your vision, you fall to your preparation. So don't just chase the future, train for it. Build the muscles of discipline, patience, focus, and compassion, not for applause, but because that's the scaffolding your future stands on. It's easy to get intoxicated with the image of who you'll become one day. It's harder to ask, what does that version of me do every day that I'm not doing yet? Does that version wake up early, speak with kindness, make difficult decisions with clarity and calm, stay honest when no one is watching? You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to begin. A future that's worth having is built by the small, invisible choices we make when no one's clapping. It's not in the big wins. It's in what you say to yourself when you fail. It's in how you carry your principles through boredom and setbacks. It's in your consistency, not your bursts of inspiration. And here's a quiet truth most don't talk about. The moment you begin becoming that person, the future stops feeling far away. It begins to echo back. You start to meet people, opportunities, lessons that align with your growth. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Think of a key. It doesn't open a door by force. It opens because it fits. The life you want, the peace, the love, the freedom, requires a version of you that fits. That's alignment. That's maturity. That's how you stop chasing and start becoming. You don't chase confidence. You earn it by keeping your word. You don't chase success. You earn it by growing your skills. You don't chase love. You prepare for it by learning how to be whole alone. So ask yourself, am I making room for the future I say I want? Or am I hoping to skip the becoming part and go straight to the reward? If the answer is uncomfortable, good. That means you're listening. That means you're honest. That means you're ready. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a patient direction and the courage to show up each day as someone who understands that transformation is quiet, often thankless, and always worth it. Don't just chase the future. Become the person who belongs in it. The life you want is already looking for you. Make sure it can recognize who you are becoming. Whether or not you realize it, you are always planting something. A thought, a word, a reaction, a choice. Each day is a field, each moment a handful of seeds. And the truth is, You don't get to skip the planting. You only get to choose what grows. Most people believe they're just getting through the day. But even on the days that feel mundane, you are sowing something. Habits, attitudes, beliefs, and what you plant today, you'll have to live with tomorrow. So the question isn't am I planting anything worth harvesting? It's so easy to forget that life is not a single harvest. It's a series of quiet plantings, and we don't see the fruit overnight. In fact, most of what truly matters grows underground first. Unseen, uncelebrated, silent. Patience becomes a root. Kindness becomes a stem. Discipline becomes the sunlight. But here's the thing. You can't plant anger and expect peace. You can't sow resentment and hope for joy. You can't fill your day with distractions and wonder why you feel empty at night. Seeds don't lie. They only become more of what they already are. So what kind of future are your daily thoughts preparing? What kind of relationship is your tone nurturing? What kind of identity are your habits reinforcing? You don't need a perfect answer. You just need an honest one. Because the moment you become aware that you're planting, you regain your power to choose. You can choose patience over reaction. You can choose grace over judgment. You can choose one small action instead of another excuse. The seeds don't have to be big. Tiny seeds grow trees. One sincere thank you. One moment of self-control. One truthful word. One boundary. One commitment honored when it would have been easier to quit. Plant enough of those, and the soil of your life begins to change. It starts to feel fertile, alive, promising, but you have to choose. You have to plant on purpose. That means not letting your feelings drive the planting, because feelings come and go like weather, but seeds, they stay. They grow whether you remember them or not. So be careful what you speak in frustration. Be careful what you think when you're tired. Be careful what you rehearse in your mind when things feel uncertain. Not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because you matter. Your life matters. And everything you plant inside it eventually blooms. Some people spend their entire lives harvesting bitterness from seeds they never meant to plant. They thought they were just venting, just joking, just avoiding discomfort. But neglect is a form of planting too. And passivity doesn't protect you, it just lets the weeds win. So today, right now, you can choose. Choose a better thought. Choose a new word. Choose a pause instead of a reaction. Choose care instead of control. Choose effort over ease. Choose to remember that your life is a garden, and you are not the victim of it. You are the one with the seeds in your hand. No one else is coming to plant for you. No one else knows what your heart is capable of growing. So plant on purpose, and trust the slow magic of good seed, because eventually, you will live among what you've sown, and when that day comes, you'll be glad you chose to plant beauty, even when it was easier not to.